It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined now by David Smoak, the host of the Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. David, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us once again.
All right, I heard you guys. I heard your comment. Always great to be with you. What a powerful station. Great coverage. You might get in 2 or 3 questions with me. I know what that means. I get it. You when you have a talk show host as a guest, like if you guys came on with us, yeah, it's kind of a, yeah, oh, I'm ready to go, buddy. It's always great to see you both. Really good.
If you get bothered by a TV guy in Houston, that was my fault. I've given him your contact info, and I've given him this concept. I don't know if the station will want to do it or not, but I said, if you do this kind of spring football tour stuff, you got to talk to David Smoak in Baylor because he's got energy and knowledge about Baylor football forever. So, I just volunteered away some of your time because you're good at what you do, David.
I appreciate it. You guys are too, man. It's great to even be talking about it. It means we're through spring drills and getting closer. We'll see everybody in Frisco in a couple of months.
Yeah, for sure. And, our market goes nuts on college football, which is great for me, great for us because we love the sport for sure. And we got 2 very good teams. We got Bronco Mendenhall up north. And then Weber State hired a local high school coach that we're all close with. And so we want to see what he could do at the Big Sky level. We're intrigued by that. And he's a disciple of Mike Leach's offense because Mike Leach has a connection or had a connection to Utah and helped teach the offense to the guys. So, yeah, college football, we're going to be up to our eyeballs and bring it on. We're excited for it. As far as Baylor goes, they get the quarterback at DJ Lagway over as a transfer. And can I make the argument that as he goes this season determines whether Dave Aranda is the coach at Baylor next season?
Yeah, absolutely. No question. They brought him in. Obviously, things didn't work out all that well at Florida. He had maybe a handful of decent moments. He was also, at times, he just never was really 100%. But that's not an excuse. That's part of playing college football. And it was a big deal. I don't know where this program, even though they got some really good young quarterbacks they feel good about, I don't know who would have been next option because they basically said, okay, take all of your eggs and let's put it in this basket. Now, Jake Spavital, offensive coordinator, they had a couple of, options to go to. But with DJ's father, a former Baylor player, Willis High School, just around he's down in the Houston area, but no question. I remember speaking with him. I had an interview with him back in late February before spring started, and a couple of things that came out. One, he's very transparent. He's also, I think, more comfortable here. Not that, again, Florida's haven't been lately, but a great program. But also, he did say that he's probably healthier now than he has been since he was in high school. And there was concerns about his shoulder in the first few throws in the first practice. You're like, But no, guys, no question. They had to bring in receivers. They had to bring in offensive linemen. But the bottom line is all of this revolves around can they protect him and can he be productive? He's got a gun. He can throw it. Now, can they protect him and can he at least give this team a big adrenaline push?
Baylor has been up and down, to be sure, over the last, you can go back 10 or 20 years, right? PK actually just compared it to Arizona State the other day, man. There's some years you can point at and say, wow, that was a really good year. But then you look for them to follow it up, and they don't do it. And I read this one sentence, and I thought, I absolutely have to run this by you. Sikkim 365. Baylor found itself in a really tough position this offseason with the lack of resources committed by boosters due to the hot seat Dave Aranda is on. Elsewhere in the story, they're basically saying they're in the bottom half of the Big 12 NIL because people don't believe in the coach and don't want to write checks right now. Are people holding cash back, and is that going to cripple Aranda's efforts here?
I don't think they have enough. I think, let's put it this way. I think they have just enough to be able to put together the roster and bring a few people in. They don't have the kind of NIL, for example, that men's basketball has. They have more, but they don't have that kind of, excitement, even though Scott Drew the last couple of years they've struggled because they recently won a national championship. And Scott is great at recruiting not only players but also those who can help with NIL, and just had a golf tournament around the corner about a week ago, raised over $1 million just for that, which really, guys, let's put that in perspective. That might be one player for 1 year. Who knows?
Right.
As far as basketball, it might even be like a bench player. But no, yeah, you're right. There's I don't know if it's a lack of trust. It's kind of been a malaise. I had a conversation with Dave about a month ago in his office. No camera, no microphone, just sitting there talking about the system and where they are. And they're not in the mode where they have much more than what you have with the House settlement. Whatever that is for them, 17, 18 million. Of course, I know it's 20.5. Men's basketball gets about 3 or 4 million of that too. I think they were hoping when they changed ADs, when Doug McNamee came in, he's a really good fundraiser, but I don't think they've been able to get where they need to go. I asked this question when Doug arrived. Does Baylor have enough young, what I call bangers, guys who have a little bit of that ego, who are also wanting their names in the headlines and want to be like, and I'm not trying to say there's a bunch of Cody Campbells, because Cody Campbell really doesn't have much of an ego if you've ever met him and talked to him. He just has a bunch of money, and so does Tech. Baylor's not in that position. They've got a lot of old donors, and I mean old, I'm 67, that have put out millions of dollars on a lot of facilities and in some cases other things as well at Baylor. But, they're kind of now to a point where they're starting to protect what they have for whoever's next in the family. Baylor's trying to scratch out maybe 5, 6, 8 of the young donors, whether attorneys, investment, or just guys that own a bunch of things. But right now, I would say at most they're in the middle of the pack in the Big 12 when it comes to how much they can spend, especially in football. And probably a few people are not writing checks until they see, because I think everybody, had Mack Rhodes not gone through the drama he did, had he not been fired, Dave Aranda's gone. I know that. I know that. He's gone. And everybody likes Dave, great guy, but you got to win. But if Mack Rhodes had not been fired or been in the position where he had to be fired, then there's no question that Dave Aranda would have been gone. And so that probably kicked the can down just a little bit down the road, so to speak, when people want to say, okay, we need to get behind whoever's the next head coach.
You talk about that offensive line, and I'm reading that they've got one starter at right tackle, Siraki, I think it may be how you pronounce his name, Caden, and they took some hits in the transfer portal there. What do they have to replace the guys that they lost?
Guys, I got to really be honest with you. That they brought in, like, for example, one of the young men, Kibble. He was at Texas, recruited by Texas, and of course, if you're recruited by Texas, you're probably either really pretty good or you're overmodulated as far as what people think. Let's be honest, that's true. They did bring in 4 or 5 offensive linemen, maybe even 6, through the transfer portal. They had to. But, yeah, Siraki has a brother. Colton and Caden are both the ones that you're talking about. Caden's the right tackle. One of the issues last year, because Sawyer Robertson was good. He wasn't as good as he was the year before. He didn't run as much. He wasn't as explosive. They couldn't protect him anyway. And both lines, offense and defensive lines, were just not. They were at most, at best, on their best day, average. So they had to go into the portal and do that on both offensive and defensive line. I think they have a new offensive line coach. I think they feel good about who they have. But, again, I'm not going to get into – I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, my God, he's from here and he's here and he's here. You don't know anymore with the portal. Guy could be from San Jose State and be really good, or UAB and be really good, and the guy from maybe who was at Oklahoma transfers in, or Texas. We don't know that anymore because of the way the transfer portal is so fluid. I don't know who they are. I do know they have some young players that they feel like can come up through the system, including a couple of true freshmen. But let's be honest, you're going up against 20, 21, 23, 4-year-old guys. And so it's going to be a challenge for them. It is going to be a challenge for them. Doesn't mean they're not busting it, but it's going to be a challenge for them to get themselves into a bowl game.
They bring Joe Klanderman in from Kansas State as a new defensive coordinator, and maybe K-State's defenses weren't – they've been pretty good, but they haven't been great. But maybe that's last year maybe that was an NIL issue at Kansas State. How is Klanderman going to change this? And I thought Aranda was a defensive guy, so how much freedom does he get to change this?
Have you guys ever seen that meme with Will Smith in a big house, a mansion,
He's
downstairs
alone
in the living room, and there's nobody else there?
Yeah.
Right.
I use that example. It's because Dave Aranda has not been afraid of changing coordinators or otherwise. Spavital's been in, and he's been pretty solid when he's been really good the last, 3 years. But Dave Roberts left, the defensive coordinator. They've been through other guys as well. Klanderman, we had a chance to speak with him. Klanderman is taking over complete control of the defense. And you're right, Aranda's supposed to be the defensive, genius, right? Guru, the Jedi when he was LSU, Wisconsin, Utah State, etc. And he is. He knows his defense. When people, even coaches say when he gets in front of a film or in front of a class or a clinic, he's just like, you're in awe. But he needs to get everything in front of him. He doesn't need to be worried about. Doesn't mean he's not going to give Klanderman some advice or look at some game plans or look at some film. He will. But he has to get involved in every inch of this program, from punting, kicking, coverage, all that. And he didn't have a choice. He's pretty much told, this is what you're going to do. You're going to let other people make decisions. Spavital handles that. Klanderman comes in pretty good. Of course, K-State last year was a mess. Opened up with that loss at Iowa State and Dublin, and they just never got going. And Kleiman, of course, was going through a lot of things, questioning the way football is run these days or college athletics, and he wasn't quite in it. He even admitted he's worn out. So I don't know how much that would go on Klanderman. But Klanderman, I saw somebody make a comment again on Twitter about some of the biggest storylines in the Big 12, and one of them is how Dave Aranda's defense at Baylor goes, so goes Dave Aranda. It's not his defense. He will have input, but he's not going to be calling the coverages. He's not going to be calling the scheme. In fact, Klanderman is going to make this scheme a little bit more, user-friendly by being able to mix a few things up. And listen, try what you can. Now, you still have to have the dudes all over the place to do it. But Klanderman, I think, may be a breath of fresh air for some of the returning players. And he also was able to help with a few transfers in as well. Aranda is not going to be in charge of the defense, even if they start 3-0 or they start 0-3. And 3-0 is going to be tough, but with Auburn in the first game. But I do think that Klanderman, from what I've been told, and what I've been told by more than just Dave Aranda, is that Klanderman has the keys to the car on the defensive side of the football.
There's a stat that's pretty wild, and we'll see how it goes this year. Last year, Baylor, when they went 5-7, and they were 0-7 when they allowed more than 165 yards rushing, and then they were 5-0 when they gave up fewer than that. And so the run defense was okay at times, but not nearly good enough, and there was a big difference there. And I know they got some transfers, and like you said, I can read their names and where they're from, but who knows how they're going to be. What are you thinking?
There's a couple of guys that interest me, but they lost their best linebacker, Keaton Thomas. He should have gone. He was going to get a lot more money, and he's a hell of a player. He had a good supply and demand. Their entire front defensive line, 5 of the first 6 guys, at least from, if you look at sometime either in the middle or at the end of spring drills, they're all transferred. They all are. There's one player, Jose Wheeler, who was at Indiana. So that tweaked my interest. And I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I haven't checked. But the last I remember, he had not yet been cleared. Now, we're 2.5 months away from camp starting. So he could play. Now, he could play, a senior from Indiana. But I don't know if he has yet been cleared, and that might be one of those bang-bang decisions sometime in August. They have a couple of guys who were hurt. Turner, the cornerback who was at Northwestern, who got injured last year, he's going to help them. At safety, he can play. But he didn't play last year because, again, he was hurt. So that always helps. Not just those you transfer in, but those who did not play last year. I'm not talking freshmen or those players, but guys that were transfers that didn't play for injury reasons. Here's one thing I know. Now, don't laugh. They have a hellacious group of special teams. They really do. They had a kicker, punter, all of that. Now, can they go coverage? So that's one. You know, what I always have said, if you're a 5-7 team, but you're really good on special teams, you can block a punt, kick field goals pretty consistently, maybe even have really good plus-minus kick coverage, lost yardage, you can win 7-5. If you're 9-3 and you have really good special teams, you might be better than that, but you have to have one of those, and I think that does help. Now, that's, again, they're on the field very rarely. The punt team was on the field a lot last year, and so was the kick return team. But I do think that they have some pieces together, but they have so many new faces, and it's just so hard. It's so hard to know. Okay, that's great. For example, wide receiver Draylen Miller from Colorado. He's from near DJ, where he played high school football. The young man that came in from Florida, another wide receiver. They're supposed to be pretty talented. They went to Colorado, went to Florida. They have a young man named Lewis Brown, a receiver who's a transfer, senior, big, tall, lanky body that might give them a little oomph. They don't have Bryson Washington, who 2 years ago, guys, remember, was an All-American freshman running back, and now he's gone. They do have Dawson Pendergrass, who's just kind of a plow horse that might give them a little bit of personality, and two good young running backs. I know I'm not, you know me, I'm going to tell you, I don't know who they are. I'm not going to, buy into that spring hype. I don't know who they are. I do know this. They're going to have very few injuries. It's an attrition game, and they're going to have to find a way. Someone that you don't know who's on the roster is going to have to be a lot better, maybe 5 players, than you think they are for this team to have a chance to get to a bowl game. I'm not trying to do doom and gloom. That's not I don't care. I don't lose any sleep whether they're 7-5, 5-7, 12-2, and 21 was amazing. They were fantastic. But they've never followed up on that year. They've never taken advantage of that year back when NIL and transfer portal started, and they're paying for that even now 2 or 3 years down the road.
Before we let you go, then, where is the bar for Aranda to keep his job? Bowl eligibility, is that enough? Has it got to be a winning record? Are they going to make him win 8 games? New AD, is he showing his cards at all?
Great question. I've always been, you got to walk before you jog, you got to jog before you run, and that's what it was like back when early years of Art Briles, because they had gone forever, guys, without being in a bowl game, like 16 or 17 years. And they did that. I don't think Dave Aranda has that ability to be that methodical or that. I think they're going to – here's my deal. I have not talked to really off the record with Doug McNamee about this, but to me, 7-5 is the absolute minimum. I don't care even if, DJ was to go down. Hopefully that didn't happen for his sake. But if 7-5 and then there's going to have to be a game or two in that 7-win total that's against somebody in the top third of the Big 12 Conference or maybe even an Auburn, you're going to have to not just win 7, become bowl eligible. You're going to have a couple of games that show signs that you can play with the top third of the Big 12, which is what they used to do year in and year out for quite some time.
David, we enjoyed it as always. Thanks for bringing all the knowledge, the passion, and the energy.
You guys are great. Keep it up. Thank you very much, and have a great, great week.
There's David Smoak, host of the Smoak Show on 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. PK, this is not the first time or the last time we've said this. If they're going to do this, they better start fast. They got the neutral game with Auburn on a neutral field to start, and then 4 of the next 5 are at home. And their closing stretch in November at BYU, home to Texas Tech, at Houston the last 3. They better get where they need to get in those first 9 games, because that's some heavy lifting down the stretch.
Yeah, you want to take the pressure off. You want to be bowl eligible, obviously, as soon as possible. And I don't know when that's going to be or if that's going to be.
Right. All right, there's the spring football report on the Baylor Bears, who do not play Utah this year, but they're at BYU November 14th. All right, DJ and PK, Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, 9 o'clock. What could, should, and will the Jazz do with that draft pick? We'll talk NBA playoffs with him as well. That's at 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoe.
The Jazz selecting number 2 in the upcoming NBA draft. So, if there's one thing that scares me, AJ's the safer pick. And that's what makes me nervous is that Washington is going to be like, okay, we've really swung and missed, and we've really done some problems. So let's go the safest superstar available in AJ and let somebody else take the risk on Darren. If I'm the Jazz, then I take that risk on Darren Peterson. But I exhaust every option available to me to get AJ.
I encourage everybody to go back and you do watch pre-Kansas film on Darren Peters. I want you to watch his handle, specifically how he navigates ball screens. He can become a better passer, but he's not bad as a secondary playmaker. You just look at him, it's his frame. To me, there are real reasons why this guy can be great.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. 2 games in the books in the Western Conference Finals. You want to, after having watched these 2 games, you want to say anything for sure right now other than I thought it was going to be a long series, and it looks like it's going to be a long series?
Well, the thing that I was impressed with these Thunder is he came out far more aggressively, far more emotional. Holmgren, who was a complete and total non-factor relative to his skill level, in game 1, you could see, okay, that's not going to happen again. And that's fine. Things happen. But, like, he had a little fake along the baseline and went and dunked it and got fouled. And, you know, you would have thought it was the game-clinching basket in the Game 7 of the finals. But that's okay. I want to see more emotion. I want to see more passion. Don't be passive. Now, you just can't be emotional. You got to be good, too. And their 2 best players, obviously SGA being the other, played substantially better, and they're going to go as far as those 2 take them. They've got some very nice role players. Caruso had another good game. I get that. But I can make the case, okay, he had a great game in game 1. They still lost because you need SGA and you need Holmgren to do his thing. And I thought Hartenstein, I-Hart, as they call him back there, he asserted himself. Push him. Push Wembanyama. Mess him up. Rough him up. If they call it, then adjust. But if they don't call it, try to knock him off this game. That's part of the deal. And, you know, you may be getting close to the line of the rules, but so what? That's up to the referees to enforce the rules, not you. And so I just like the way they play. They're a lot more aggressive. Now, they did not blow them out. It seemed like every time they were 2 things that I liked about that, the aggressiveness, and every time they seemed like they were about ready to knock out the Spurs got it back into a possession or 2, and then the Thunder got some more breathing room, so they kept answering. It was a boxing match in a sense.
It went from 3 to 11 so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, they're up 10 again. Oh, they're only up 4. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so I like that. And they got threatened multiple times, and you could argue, well, San Antonio, me, I don't buy the house money, but you know, the mission was to get a game in Oklahoma. You needed to get a game in order to win the series. They did that. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win, but mindset-wise, they had a little bit of an advantage there. Could be a little looser because the pressure clearly was on the Thunder, and they answered the call. And so I'm expecting, like I did with Cleveland and Detroit, flip a coin. See who's playing better on each individual game, and that's probably going to determine the winner. And if you play well or better than the opponent 4 times, you win.
I thought it was really good that Oklahoma City went away from that. Hey, let's put a little – Wemby's bigger than everybody, so let's put a little guy on him and then have our other bigs match up and make these other guys play against bigger players. And I also thought the way they deployed the 2 big guys, I-Hart, as you like to say, is he's just so – reminds me of Steven Adams, you know, just big, thick, physical guy. And so lean into that with Wemby a little bit and beat him up. Now, in the next game, it may not work as well. Wemby only got to shoot 2 free throws. And I think he had 3 field goals in the paint instead of 10. So it definitely worked. And I thought the fact that they got Holmgren on the floor when Wemby sat, that allowed Holmgren to use his size, length, athletic ability, attack the hoop, get dunks, whatever, when Wemby was out of the game. Make use of those, 9 minutes he sat. And they did. I thought that was good. That was savvy. I am curious, is Caruso just going to have an awesome series? Because you're coming off the bench, you think, okay, he has, 2 great games, 2 pretty good games, but maybe a couple of clunkers, in a 6-game series. Wow. The overall numbers weren't as good, but they were getting shots for Holmgren and Hartenstein that they weren't getting in the first game. Caruso scored 17 points on only 7 shots. Well done. Very efficient. When you got your opportunities, you took them.
He's a trusted player.
Yes, 100%.
And those types of guys are valuable. They're not stars, but every team needs them.
Right.
You can go down the list, whether whoever it might be from way back when. I guess they say John Havlicek was the 6th man back in the 60s, a little bit before I can remember, but I've certainly read up on it. And you need those types of players. And Daigneault can trust Caruso, and there's something to be said for that. And so right now, the series literally is even. And I also think, in my mind, going forward, it still is even. Who's going to win? Don't know.
And if it's even after 2 games in San Antonio, I'm not going to be surprised.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to who is playing better on a given night, and you've got to play better than 4 times. I feel like Cleveland, it was a devastating loss in the manner in which it was accomplished for New York. But it's one of those things where I can remember talking in the locker room, and the Jazz had a comeback. It was in the 90s, and I don't even remember who they were playing. And it was improbable that they came back, but they did, and they won the game. And talking to the guys afterward, it's like everything had to go right for you, and everything had to go wrong for the other guy. And sometimes that happens. And so if I'm Cleveland, that's the way I'm approaching that game. Well, I got to put it behind me, but I don't think it has the potential to be devastating. And wasn't it, who was it? Roy McIlroy. Didn't he? You can look this up if I think I'm right. His Masters years ago when he was a younger kid, he blows up and shoots like an 80. And, it's going to be such ramification and blah, blah, blah. And then I think he went out and won the U.S. Open. The very next thing.
Just shake it off.
Because they didn't have the PGA in between back then.
Yeah, so he had 2 months.
Yeah.
But the point is, sometimes stuff happens and people shake it off.
Right.
And sometimes stuff happens and it impacts them for a long time. And we all try to predict when something happens like that, how it's going to play out, but we don't really know. And he shook it off.
Right. And so I'm not going to be burying Cleveland by any stretch because they were right there. They played so well for so long, and then things went against them and things went for the Knicks. All right, way to go, Knicks. But asking Shamet to hit 2 big threes again and one that bounces around multiple times, I don't know that he can do that. So I'm not so worried about the Cavs psychologically because I don't think there's a big difference there between these 2 teams. They got to get a handle on Brunson. Brunson is the most improbable good to great small player in league history since Tiny Archibald.
So you're jumping over, and I'm just going to list all the 6-foot guards out there.
Well, not that many. Isaiah and Stockton.
Steve Nash.
I think Steve Nash was a tad bit bigger.
He might have been 6'2".
Yeah. But you can put him in there. But Nash never did any, and same thing with Stockton.
Gary Payton.
Payton was about 6'4", I think, and he's a ball hawk. But Brunson shouldn't be doing the things that he's doing, but yet he does them, and it's amazing. Good on the young man to watch him play. Undersized. I think being left-handed helps him. But the thing about being undersized, you always hear of these guys, he grew 7 inches between his junior and senior year. Mm-hmm. Well, the short guys, they don't do that.
No.
So he's always been undersized, and he was undersized in high school, and he probably had to be crafty in high school. And when he went to Villanova, he had to be crafty. And then he faced long odds in the NBA. So he's always had to do these things. This is, in order for him to be successful, he had to use all these shake and bakes and moves and fakes and all these types of things to get himself into position. So he's probably practiced those things 1,000 times, if not 20,000 times. And so so this is his lot in life, and it's the way he's going to be successful. And good on Thibodeau did it last year, and now Mike Brown allowing him and his teammates, as Dave Rose once said when I was complimenting Jimmer, Dave went right to his teammates because they allowed Jimmer to be Jimmer, not just the coaches, but the players. And the players have to do that too, because sometimes you get guys get in the way and wait a second, I want my shots and blah, blah, blah. But they've got to get a handle from the Cleveland defensive perspective on Brunson. He cannot be able to just do what he wants out there. And clearly in the fourth quarter, he did what he wanted.
Muggsy Bogues and Spud Webb.
I don't think they were that good.
They weren't. They're much shorter also.
Yes, and way to go, guys. I mean, you defied the odds big time.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were all-stars. Brunson is an all-star. You can make the case that the Knicks go as he goes.
You can make that case.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, and series are about adjustments, and you got to try different things. And Oklahoma City tried something in game one, and it didn't work, and we were all scratching our heads by the middle of the second quarter. And they stuck with it, but then they went away from it. And okay, that didn't work, and now they tried something different. And, Wembanyama had a very good game. But for them to win the series, does he have to be awesome 4 times?
Well, it's hard.
Right.
To reproduce what he did game one.
This is no way you expect another 40-20 game. And he goes 21 points on 50% shooting, 17 boards, 6 assists, 4 blocks. I mean, he had a very good game, but it wasn't enough.
That will get you in the hall.
He needs, for San Antonio to win right now, when they're missing Fox, when Harper's hurt, when Castle's turned it over 9 times. This is the whole youth thing about San Antonio. Castle might be, different in 2 or 3 years when he's played more playoff games. And maybe he won't be in this role if other guys are healthy. They try somebody else in that role. But right now they're a little limited. I'm curious now, how did the Cavs adjust? Leaving Harden on Brunson didn't work. All right, try something else. What Oklahoma City tried in game 1 didn't work. They tried something else. It worked better in game 2. So series are about adjustments. What are they going to do?
I think that the Spurs are not a well-constructed team just yet. And what I mean by that is they've got Big Vic and then about 10 other guys to see to do the same thing. Now, they're good.
They're also the same age. And Pat Riley said a long time ago, you need 1/3 young, 1/3 prime, 1/3 older guys. They've got a lot of guys who are young, and you're right. There's a certain, because they didn't draft for need and because they were drafting high and they drafted the best player, there's a little skill set overlap. And maybe they wouldn't have.
They're all
maybe
the
they
same
wouldn't have,
player.
Maybe they wouldn't have acquired Fox if they knew who they were going to draft in the next couple of drafts. But of course, you can't know that, so it worked out the way it did.
If they were playing a 6'6" and under league, they'd dominate.
Well, except they wouldn't get to use Wemby.
Right, but it seems like every one of those guys outside of Big Vic and the backup Cornette dude.
Yeah.
But he's just a spot player. It seemed like they're all the same guys. They all got the same skill set.
Yeah.
They all do the same thing. And it'll be interesting to see going forward if they make some moves there. I mean, you can go look at their roster, 6'5", 6'6",
Teams
6'5".
don't tend to stand pat, so I do think, to your point, that we'll see different sizes, different skill sets, and different experience levels. Because they're playing a lot of really young guys. It's impressive they've gotten this far as young as the team is, and part of that is because Wembanyama can just be unreal. Even in the 21-point, 17-rebound game, which we're treating that like it's not a big deal, where if a guy here did it, we'd be going nuts. But because he just went 40-20, it doesn't seem as spectacular. When he missed that shot and then immediately hit the floor and went back up and grabbed it and dunked it, and a couple possessions later missed a shot and went to the other side of the rim and tipped it in, it's just not normal. There's nothing about that as normal. Those are 2 outstanding plays.
I mean, I don't understand why they're not playing Bismarck Biyombo more.
No, just stop with that.
The Montana kid. Right? Or how about Kelly O? Put KO in there,
Clinic, former Jazz man.
Yeah, he don't play.
He's over there high-fiving guys at timeouts.
Yeah, and good for him, man. He stayed in the league for a long time on being a good dude.
35 years old now.
Yeah.
So you stay in the NBA more than 10 years, we are impressed. We've always said that. At 35, he's clearly well past
But he's
it.
not playing. But you just look at all the guys, and they don't play Harrison Barnes that much either. But Carter Bryant, they play 6'6". Castle, 6'6". The guy I call Champagne, 6'7". Fox, not playing right now, 6'3". Harper, 6'5". And Keldon Johnson, 6'5". They're all clones of one another. Yep. So they got one big player and a bunch of guards.
But if they find a 6'9" or 6'10" guy who can shoot, and maybe using Olynyk's money because he's a free agent, he's making $13 million, but this is the last year of his deal. Maybe that roster spot and that money.
Yeah,
someone his size who's younger.
Changes.
Yeah. But there is something to be said, positionless basketball, a bunch of interchangeable 6'6" guys.
Right, but I still think that's a hard way to go about it. Now, Wembanyama makes the thing work to the level that they've been able to make it work because he's all that.
Yeah. And he's 22, and Harper's 20, and Castle's 21. And, they're playing a lot of young guys. Vassal's only 25.
And
Champagne
he's
is
6'5".
24. Yeah. So these are a whole lot of guys. Like usually you get to your prime, you're 27 years old. But
Julian Champagne is 24?
Yeah, he's 24. So
how do you say his last name?
I think it's
Champagne.
Champagne, yes. Thank you.
I just call him Champagne.
I do like the Champagne name. That's fine.
They hope to be toasting here in 3 or 4 weeks.
They've got a lot of older guys who are in the last year of the deal. So
they sit the bench.
They do. So that makes me think, to your point, there's going to be a lot of roster spots available. There's going to be change. Maybe they bring 1 or 2 of them back. We'll see. But Harrison Barnes is 33 and a free agent.
He is.
The Clinic is 35 years old, free agent. McLaughlin is 30 and a free agent.
The Clinic?
That's
it's Jake Scott.
That's
nickname.
Jake Scott. K. Olynyk.
Great, and both you guys have never been to the Clinic.
Biombo is 33 and Plumlee is 36. The Clinic.
Yeah.
Which clinic?
The health clinic where you don't have much money.
I've been to the clinic.
To interview people?
No, to get treated.
For what?
When I tore my ACL. And it was a bad experience, and I didn't go back.
Right. Well, you were a kid, not an adult.
Well, I was an adult, but
no, you weren't.
I was a youthful adult. I was in my 20s.
Right. You weren't even out of college.
I was out of college.
Your lifestyle was not out of college.
Grief, man. Anyway, to the point I was trying to make, they got 5 guys in their 30s who are free agents. They could let any or all of them go. It'll free up a bunch of money, probably close to $40 million. So to your point, you'll probably be sitting here next year saying, well, the Spurs didn't have player X a year ago, but they're going to have $40 million coming off the books. And they're going to have roster spots, and this team will look different. And all these guys who are 20, 21, 22 years old will have another year in the playoffs under the belt. The only question is, will they be the defending champs or not?
No. And the Jazz will beat him in the second round. Mark my words.
Mark my words. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. If you're just joining us now, the question of the day, very intriguing, a lot of good answers. It's on our Facebook page. You can read through the comments. I know sometimes it's kind of a waste of time, but I actually thought there was, I have a friend who likes to say, there's some meat on the bone. Man, Thanksgiving must be full combat at his house. But I thought there were some really good answers. Should the Jazz give a serious look at Cam Boozer? We had people saying, hey, don't get too crazy or don't stray too far away from the general consensus here that we're seeing. And then we had people, we had one guy specifically just list, here's the problem with general consensus in the past, and listed a bunch of drafts where people went number 2 and there were Hall of Famers on the board that should have been chosen instead. We've also had people saying that the track record's pretty good and that Jazz should trust their research, their instinct, and their knowledge. Tony says they can take a good look at Boozer. Peterson or AJ is who we need. Tony has already definitively figured it out. And maybe that's what all their research will tell them. That when they do take a good look, they'll decide he's the 3rd prospect and we're not reaching with the number 2 pick. You did bring up the interesting thought of, okay, is there somebody, especially Memphis or Chicago, who wants to trade up? Because if they think the second best player in the draft is slotted 4th or 5th, maybe moving down to 3 or 4, you get who you want and you get some extra assets to continue the rebuild with. Obviously, that doesn't happen often, but obviously Danny Ainge did do it once and it worked.
That's 2 obviously's right there.
I think you know both of these things, but recapping for people who don't. So, yes, I think it was obvious. I don't think I surprised you with either one of those little tidbits.
Obviously.
Ha-ha! 3. Yeah, get in on this game. It's fun. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm going to pass.
Obviously, I don't want him involved.
Yeah. You beat me to it, man.
All sorts of options are available.
Obviously.
And with that in mind, they may do something that is not
obvious.
The apparent obvious move.
Okay.
Maybe something that is a little surprising. Now, obviously, I don't expect them to do that right now, but we're still in the early process. It's not getting late early yet. We still have, give me another, at least get to June. We're not to June yet. We still got over a week to go before we get to June, before you may have a better concept of what other teams are asking for, because I wonder, it's a negotiation process and what you're willing to give too from that perspective, not just what other teams are asking, but what you're willing to give, whether it is for Washington or whether it is for a deal that allows a team to move ahead of you. And I think you do go with what you have to trust your instinct. There's no way you're going to make a pick thinking, oh my gosh, this is not the right pick. You're going to go into it with full confidence after having done complete amounts of research to figure out XYZ, whatever that is, right? And then away you go. And it very well could be that they move down and get a player that they still love, not just like, but literally love, and can get an asset or two in addition. There's nothing wrong with that if you think it's the right thing.
Josh says Cam Boozer has talent worth considering. Yes, but given that they're going to be paying their front court $125+ million a year by the end of the summer with absolutely no intention of trading them anytime soon, they should not draft Boozer. He goes on. Okay, first off, it's $100 million, not $125, and no intention of trading him. If you said
trading
right
who?
Now, the front court.
Oh, them. Either any
I
of
assume
them.
he means, he doesn't say, but I assume he means Markkanen and Jackson. And I would say in the next 2 years, I would say it's more likely than not that one of those two is traded before opening day of 29.
Okay, but I think it is $125 million because I think he's including what you're going to have to pay Kessler.
Oh, okay, yeah. If it is 3 guys, you're right. And he probably is. That's my bet.
And that's probably the round
so
number.
So Josh is probably going 125 plus because he's throwing Kessler's money in there. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Yes. Stand corrected,
Well,
Josh.
but
I do think that one of those two guys that's on $50 million is probably going to be moved in a couple of years, so you don't pass on Cam Boozer if you think he's the guy.
Exactly. That gives you insurance to potentially lose one of these dudes and still have proficiency at that position in the front court.
And even in the next 2 years, look what's happened in the Western Conference Finals. There's 4 guys hurt right now. And also, you need 4 guys to rotate through 3 possessions. I mean, these guys aren't playing 48 minutes. And Jackson can play a couple of positions. Obviously, you got to be careful when you play him at the 5. Markkanen can play a couple positions. So if Boozer's the guy, I am not worried about the 3 guys on the roster. I read that as 2, but you're right. It's probably 3. But I'm not worried about those 3 guys on the roster. I add Boozer to the mix, and you're drafting him for a decade. You're not drafting him for the next 2 to 3 years. These guys are under contract for 3, and I'm just not convinced they're going to be here at the end of their deals.
Well, and plus you could get some good talent in return.
Yes.
For...
Absolutely.
Probably any or all.
All 3 of those guys have value.
Yeah.
Especially the guys with the bigger contracts as they get near the end of the contract. Or people who are looking for salary relief, and absolutely.
That's what's cool about it is the Jazz have set themselves up to have options. Now, options are just simply that until they become assets. So I don't know that they're going to be assets. I have anticipation and confidence that they will be, but they can go in a lot of different ways. And so I'm not so worried about them, they're going to be capped out. Because we've seen so many teams be capped out until they're not capped out because they make the moves to get the flexibility. And the Jazz just did that 4 years ago.
5 to 10 years ago, I was totally in that. And I thought there were untradeable contracts. And some of the players on those contracts have been traded multiple times. Chris Paul was making a lot of money. James Harden was making a lot of money. Kevin Durant was making a lot of money. They've all moved multiple times. So there was a time where I thought, well, you just can't get off that contract. Now you're stuck. No, you can. We've seen it.
Right.
It's a fact.
Right.
All right, DJ and PK. Andy Bailey, NBA writer and analyst for Bleacher Report, joins us right after the break. Stay with us.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses, plus free delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.